coming up on Refresh Cinema.
And
Is this the cows?
the cows, which was, I remember as a kid, this was in the trailer. The tornadoes are popping up and a cow flies by.
And it flies by again. And Joe is just like, cow. Hey everybody, welcome to Refresh Cinema. I'm Jess.
And I'm Vincent, and today we're talking about Twister.
That was a good little eyebrow.
Yeah.
This was my first time watching it. And I know this is one of your picks from your childhood.
Yeah, there's a movie I watched a ton of times when it came up on movie channels like Stars or Cinemax, or it came up on TNT. Yeah, and the reason why we're talking about it, assuming I don't lose track of time and I edit this quickly enough, around 30 years later, they're coming out with a sequel to it called Twisters, which is a dumb name for it because there was multiple Twisters in the first film.
I was just going to say, there were several.
Yeah, and I don't know a ton about the sequel. I know it stars Daisy Edgar Jones and Glenn Powell, two young stars who've been really making a name for themselves lately.
I was thinking of Glenn Howerton. Moving on.
No.
Okay.
You probably.
He's the guy with the face. I've seen him.
Yeah, he's
like,
a very handsome looking dude.
yeah.
A lot of people think he should play the superhero Booster Gold in the upcoming DC movies because he's just got that charming face that's Kim Shannon. But anyway, I decided, hey, let's revisit Twister since we got the sequel coming out. Anyway, so the original movie stars Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt. Helen Hunt plays Joe, Bill Paxton plays Bill, and they are two storm chasers, particularly Twisters, and they are formally married. They are divorced. Bill is coming back into town to get Helen Hunt to sign the divorce papers with his new fiancée, but things get a little more complicated when he finds out that they have constructed a very specialized weather device that was his idea, and he goes from just coming in to sign the divorce papers to sticking around to getting back into the adventure of Twister chasing.
Yes, and his new wife is coming, who is very... So everyone else in the crew is a little, rugged. They're your salt of the earth people.
Yeah.
And then his new wife comes in, very mild-mannered, all dressed in white. She's a businesswoman. I believe she is the egg thing with making babies counselor.
Even if you stand on your head.
She's a reproductive therapist.
So she's, it's very interesting to see her interact with all these more rugged, outdoorsy country people.
Yeah.
And she has to be along for the ride.
Yeah, because and I have a lot to the character's name is Melissa. I forget the name of the actress. She's one of the actors that you've seen her in other stuff before, and by the end of this movie, I feel really bad for her, and we will get to that. But the movie starts with there's a little girl in bed, and there's some storming outside. Her dad's downstairs watching the weather report, and all of a sudden, boom! A massive tornado is coming right at their house. The dad, the mom grabs the little girl. Dad's like, "We gotta go. Let's move." That the dog's trailing
behind, and I'm there the dog doesn't make it. Yeah. I'm telling Vincent we're picking a different movie.
Now I'm gonna pick no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, so they get to they have a storm shelter. It looks like it's something the dad built. They get there, which it's 100 feet or more from the house. It looks like. Maybe.
Yeah, it's a little far.
Yeah,
but the dog makes it.
The dog makes it. The dog he has to reopen the door
because weren't the dog and the little girl in the bed together?
They're in the bed together, and they pulled the little girl, and the dog's just like, "Hey, man, I thought we were sleeping."
What's going on? And then they just go without the dog, and I'm like,
yeah. Here's the rest of the storm shelter is made of cinder blocks. There's these little glass windows so you can kind of see out. But the door is flimsy as hell. It's
held on by a couple of screws.
Couple
half-inch screws.
The kind of hinges you would see and locks on the door to your backyard. It's
not shit.
Yeah, you need some steel bars to put in place and all that. But no, and then the dad's trying to hold the door shut because once again, apparently he cut corners on the door when he built the damn thing.
Of all things.
Yeah. He's like, I can't hold it anymore. And then he gets sucked out.
Yeah, you watch all the screws come out one by one, and he's trying so hard to hold it and protect his family.
Yeah, he gets sucked out. The little girl cries.
She tries to run after him.
Yeah.
Because they were like kind of back in a corner behind like a shelf.
The mom had to grab her, pull her back. So then we jump to the future day.
Yes, present day, the future day.
Bill Paxton, his name's Bill.
Bill is Bill, okay.
Yeah, and him and Melissa are driving in their nice red Ford truck. They're coming in, they're talking about it, and he's a little nervous to see Helen Hunt's character, Joe.
Nervous? No. Why do I look nervous?
No. Well, yeah, you do a little.
Because he has not seen her since they separated. We're not too sure why.
And Joe still won't sign the divorce papers.
Yeah, he gets there, and he's like, can I have the papers? And she's trying to chit-chat with him. And she's like, hey, oh, God, it's like, oh, it's good to see you. And she's trying to be all smiles and casual, but it's clearly like she's just trying to like avoid talking about their divorce.
And she didn't know that he was engaged.
Jesus, what's the urgency? Act like you're getting married.
I am.
So Helen Hunt's character Joe meets Melissa, the new wife, and once again, as you pointed out, she's not like them. She's not down in the dirt, and she's not a bad person. We're not like saying no. She's actually a really nice person.
She is lovely, but they try to paint her as being like, ugh, this girl really with him, because she's a little more posh.
Yeah, at first, I think the movie does like show that like yes, she's out of her element. I mean, she's really gonna be out of her element as the movie goes on, but she's definitely likable and sympathetic. Because. She's just a nice person that doesn't really understand what her fiance used to do for a living.
Yeah. Like, you can say I'm a storm chaser, but until you see it, you're like... Ugh.
Yeah. We're also introduced to Philip Seymour Hoffman's character of Dusty, who's the biggest weirdo in the movie.
He's so fun. He's a weird dude.
Dusty, why don't you explain to Melissa why you are the way you are?
Come on. The suck zone.
Yeah, it's always like I think I don't know if we said it before in a previous episode, but it's always interesting to see Philip Seymour Hoffman play goofier roles in his earlier career, because he was later known for playing like very dramatic roles because he was a very talented actor.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting to see this like semi-hippie guy who's just like
he's got to be like high as hell.
Oh yeah,
his character, he's the stoner of the bunch.
Yeah, no, I honestly, there should have been a scene in the movie where like a bong fell out of his his bus, because they got like 8 vehicles in the storm chaser crew, and he's just a goof. Like you get some giggles out of Dusty because he's like, which is interesting in the movie when he does act serious.
Yeah.
Joe shows Bill like, hey, we built Dorothy, and he's like, what? And they show this device called Dorothy, which at first just looks like a big metal barrel
with a sticker, Dorothy from Wizard of Oz on it.
Exactly, and some like caution tape on it and like lights and blah blah blah. But it turns out this device has a bunch of tiny little sensors in it, and the purpose of the device is they want to get next to a tornado, have the tornado suck up all the sensors so they can collect data on the internal structure of it, so they can create better warning systems, because apparently the current warning systems for tornadoes are only maybe a few minutes at best. With this, they say, we can get up to like 15 minutes and people could actually get to safety.
Yeah.
Which I looked up when I was doing some Googling, that how scientifically accurate is the movie Twister. And apparently the Dorothy device was based on a real device that existed.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it was like, from what I read online, it was pretty similar for how they portrayed in the movie. I mean, I don't think any of the people in the movie were based on the real people, but the original device, keeping with the theme, was called Toto.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, so they kept with that. So this was a real device. I doubt it was designed by 2 divorcees, so that would have been just like, okay, well,
on the head.
Yeah. They're like, so the crew's like, we got a tornado that's probably going to splash down, somewhere in I don't know.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So they take off, and like Melissa's like, Billy, she sign the divorce papers? And he's like, oh shit. So they have to follow behind. They bump into a crew of rival storm chasers, all in black SUVs and vans and whatnot.
And they're rude.
They're rude, yes. They're led by a character named Jonas, played by Carrie Elwes, who most people probably know for The Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah.
I also know him for Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Patty, thrust, good.
It's a movie that we will definitely get to one day. And he apparently was a fellow student of theirs back in the day when they were in like Storm College. I don't know. Find out when they get to a little pit stop that Jonas has made a knockoff version of Dorothy, which I think he just calls Dot. Bill did not know about this because Helen Hunt's character Joe did not tell him, and he goes to clobber the crap out of Jonas.
Bill is unhappy.
Yeah, and he's like gets all smug in his face, like,
Oh, I get it. You want to take credit for my design, is
You're
that
a liar.
it's like better because it's got like satellite link up and it can make cappuccinos, and I don't,
So they're going to the Twisters.
Yeah, because now because of Jonas and his knockoff Dorothy, there's a ticking time clock to who can actually get the device into a tornado and make tornado history and save lives. So now Bill Paxton's like, he goes to Joe and he's like, you get me for one day. One day. If we don't get Dorothy up in the air, then I'm out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay.
All right.
So Bill and Joe jump in her Jeep truck and they've got the first Dorothy. And she's like, you got to drive faster. Did you lose your edge, Bill? Come on. Don't you want to die? So they drive into a field and get into this ditch, and they can't get out of the ditch, which doesn't make Jeep look very good. I wonder if they had a few notes on that. But anyway, so this tornado's coming at them, and they can't get out of the ditch, so they can't get in position to launch the Dorothy sensors. So they crash into a tiny little bridge, get under the bridge for safety, but then Joe gets out of safety and she's kind of like going over to the tornado like she's mesmerized.
Yeah.
And we realize, oh, Joe's got a death wish.
Like, there's something not quite right up here.
Yes. And by the way, in case it hasn't been figured out yet, Joe was the little girl in the beginning of the movie. So
She needs therapy.
yes. Which we find out later her obsession may have led to them, their breaking up. Bill gets her back under the bridge. The car gets sucked up, but the sensors don't get sucked into the funnel. And the other storm chasers are right behind them. The tornado dissipates. And the truck lands right in front of Melissa as she's driving.
The new wife, yeah.
There it is. Melissa?
And she freaks out. She barely dodges.
Screaming.
Dusty comes up to her and is like, you just missed the truck. Like, to him, this is an exciting moment. For her, she's like freaking out because like this is automatic PTSD for this woman.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing she's a therapist. She'll know.
She'll know others in the network.
Yeah. She'll be like, have you dealt with tornado trauma? Like, like, do you know what to do? But yeah, it's really, and he goes to like, Bill gives her a hug, and it's this really moment because she's like freaked out about like, as anyone would. And this is the part of the movie where on a rewatch as an adult, I start to develop a little negativity towards Bill because he didn't ask his fiance, do you mind if I go storm chasing again for one day?
Yeah.
Like they explain some stuff to her as the movie goes on, little information about it, like how the Dorothy system works, the Fujita scale, which is a power scale for how powerful a tornado can be.
But nobody asks her, like, hey, is it cool? Are you all right with doing this?
Yeah, and it's just like, as the movie goes on, it comes like, I kind of get irritated with Bill a lot, because he's like, I understand how important this is to him. This is like the culmination of his life's work right in front of him.
Yeah.
But he never really, like, there's a moment where he's like, oh, you should go wait with the others. And she's like, oh no, I think this is kind of fascinating. I'm going to come with you. But he doesn't really explain to her the dangers involved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Joe's truck is messed up. So now they have to use Bill's truck.
Bill's very nice truck, which is not insured.
You got full coverage on that truck?
Liability only.
And this time Melissa's in the back, and they're chasing after this tornado. And
is this the cows?
The cows, which was, I remember as a kid, this was in the trailer. The tornadoes are popping up, and a cow flies by. And
it flies by again. And Joe is just like, cow. Cow. Every time she's like, cow.
And Bill's like, and on the second pass by,
another cow.
Actually, I think that was the same one.
And it's just like, and Melissa's on, like, apparently she has on-call clients that can call her whenever. And she's like,
I gotta go, Julia. We got cows.
That part killed me.
I can only imagine the person on the other line was like, is cow an acronym for like a penis thing?
What
I don't
does
know.
this mean? What's happening?
Yeah.
I gotta go. We have cows.
Yeah. And
Fucking hilarious.
we have a twister that splits into two,
They're called sisters.
which I don't know if that's a real thing, but it's a
It rhymes
movie.
with Twister.
Yeah. So, and they get caught in between them and get spun around on a death merry-go-round shit.
I was gonna call it like a tornado car wash. It's just spinning around.
Yeah. And apparently, they don't get sucked into the air, and they dissipate. And then Bill and Helen, I'm not calling Helen Hunt. I don't care. They get out there like, oh my God, that was amazing. And they're like hugging each other. You can see all the way they formed up in the
And
sky.
she like puts her hand on his chest too, and she's like, "Wow, look!"
Yeah.
And then there's Melissa.
Yeah.
In the back.
And she's freaking. And he's like, oh, White, my fiance, who's traumatized for the second time today. And he goes to hug her. And once again, it's just like, she says a line like,
You know, when you used to tell me that you chase tornadoes, deep down I always just thought it was a metaphor.
Yeah, she knows a metaphor.
I don't know. Like, what the guy, he really didn't, like, it just goes to show she didn't know who Bill was before he decided to, like,
Leave the tornado life behind.
yeah, for like an easier, smoother life, because he's apparently going to be, he's a weatherman now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he only calls her Honey.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't know what her name was. She's always just Honey.
There's a couple moments where he only says Melissa when he's screaming, when shit's going down.
Yeah.
Oh, an interesting thing about Bill's character is apparently he has psychic twister powers. They mention in the movie that Bill can just look at a sky and know where the twister is going to pop up.
Oh yeah.
Or how soon far away is, or like he's got like this, he's like a tornado whisperer or something. Like he can do that, which I loved how early in the movie they were giving Jonas crap for like, he's in it for the money, not the science. They're about the science, Twister. They're about the science. They're about the science. And I can only imagine there was a lot of like weather experts who were watching this, and there's nothing psychic, there's nothing scientific about tornado whispering.
Yeah.
He just knows, like he's like got these instincts. He can look at the clouds and tell,
What
you know,
about the tornado?
whatever.
Yeah. And then they go to her aunt's house.
Yeah.
Because the boys want steak and eggs.
Steak and eggs, and yeah, Aunt Mel's got plenty of it. And Aunt Mel's like a metal artist. She's got all these metal spinny art pieces on her front lawn. I guess that's how she makes her money. And that's when they explain the Fujita scale, which is the scale of tornadoes. It goes 1 through 5 tornado, F1, F2, F3. They're talking about, the one yesterday, that was a solid F2, and then this one was, this is a F4. Oh God, we found an F4 one time, and blah blah blah. And then Melissa's like, have any of you ever seen an F5? And they go dead quiet, because as we stated, Helen Hunt her character was a little girl in the beginning of the movie, and the twister that killed her father was an F5, the biggest, most powerful type of twister that pops up. And these twisters are a mile wide, and one character describes it as
The finger of God.
Oh.
So they're really building up these tornadoes, which I want to point out something. Did you notice that in the movie, that in the scenes where the tornadoes pop up, the tornadoes are like growling and roaring?
Yes, they sound like monsters.
Yes, they did. Yes. Another thing that's not scientific, but it's an artistic thing, and I'm fine with it. I'm sure some people are going to be like,
tornadoes don't make that sound.
yeah, it's not a lion.
That's not correct.
Actually, tornadoes don't make that sound.
Yeah, tornadoes moo because all the cows they suck up. As we saw.
Oh, we got to make a cow-nado movie.
Okay, that's next.
We got to call the Sharknado people up and be like, we got your next animal.
It's much more plausible. It's a cow-nado.
You would have been horrible is after the tornado sucked up the cow, after it dissipated, and they're like, oh God, it's gone. The cow just splattered right in front of them, and milk just splattered across the windshield.
Then they wouldn't be able to see.
It was getting, milk baths.
Anyway, they go to Aunt Mel's for some steak.
Yeah. And they explain the Fujita scale, and we find Mel has a moment with Joe where she's like, he should have stuck with you. You guys never should have gone. Like, she still loves Bill, but she like feels for her niece.
Yeah.
And So they have that moment, and then they go chasing after the next tornado, and it's just Bill and Joe in the truck this time. Melissa stays back with the group because there's like almost a dozen of them, but she stays back with the others. And they go in a tornado, and it's like, where is it? And it's not touching down, and Bill's psychic powers can't predict it this time for some effing reason. And it touches down, but there's a tree that falls on the truck, and they can't get Dorothy in there, and it splatters, and the sensors go over. And Helen Hunt's like, oh no, we gotta keep going. We gotta try. And he's like, we're gonna die.
Yeah.
There's a tree on the truck. We gotta get the hell out of here.
We gotta go. And she's like, no, stay, please stay. We can't go. It's not too late. We can keep going. He's like, no, no, like chill out, lady.
Yeah. And he finally confronts her, like, what are you doing? You want to die? And then she's like, she reveals, like, yeah, she never dealt with the trauma of when her father died because she thinks the tornado came after them because there was a couple other houses in the area it didn't hit. So, and he you can, and Bill Paxton has to talk some sense into her, like, hey, like, bad stuff happens, and there's nothing you can do about it, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, you're missing out on what you got good in your life, and she's like, what? And he's like, me, you missed out, like, I'm right here.
Like, you're missing out on what's right in front of you.
Yeah.
And this is being said over the radio,
Yes.
which is actively playing in Melissa's vehicle.
Yeah.
So Melissa, his new fiance, is overhearing him tell Joe that he is right in front of her.
Yeah.
So Melissa is sad.
Yeah, it's a really bad. Because once again, at first,
she's like, I'm gonna go for a nice drive with my soon-to-be husband, so we can sign some divorce papers, and we're gonna go back and get married. And now she's almost getting sucked up by tornadoes.
Yeah.
She has found that her husband wants to get back with his ex, and she's wet because it's raining. That just being wet makes everything worse.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Her socks are probably all freaking soggy.
I know.
She just wanted to go for a nice drive.
The cell phone's probably wet. The battery's dead. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But you really do feel bad for her. Like, and you feel a little angry at Bill, but the truth, like, is Bill, when you see, like, you see how comfortable and alive he is being back in this work, and you get the impression, like, this is where he really belongs.
Yeah.
He's just not ready to really admit it yet that he wants to be a part of this again. So that happens, and now things are a little awkward between Joe and Bill. They go to this...
But Melissa doesn't tell them that she overheard everything.
Right.
Yeah, she keeps that to herself.
Yeah, they go to this place that has a motel and a drive-in movie theater, which I would never want to stay at a motel that's right next to a drive-in movie theater. Oh, God, finally I get to rest, go to bed, just...
It's The Shining.
Yeah, The Shining's playing. And, like, Melissa's in the motel room by herself, and she's sad, and you tell she's thinking so hard about this. She's playing with her wedding ring, her engagement ring, and she's just looking at it. You understand you can see the wheels turning in her head. Like, what do I do? Do I fight or do I let him go? Like, you can see, like, that's going through her head. She's so into her own head that she's not paying attention to the TV that's saying there's another tornado coming.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, tornado hits. And once again, we hear, like, the... I'm going to get you, Helen Hunt. And it tears apart the drive-in movie screen,
So they're getting everybody into safety.
Yeah. That's going on. People are like, get downstairs, go down here, blah, 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 blah. And, like...
What is the building that they go into?
It is a mechanic shop, and they're going into the pit in mechanic shops where you can get under the car.
Oh, yeah, okay.
They go in the mechanic, and the whole place is getting ripped apart. Siding is ripping off. This sign, the Galaxy Cinema sign, is smashing through. And one of the things they show is not only just tornado, like, one of the things they point out a lot in this movie, it's not just the danger of the tornado sucking you up and flinging you through the air and you smashing the ground. It's the debris that flies all over the place. Because one of the storm chasers, there's this compressed air valve that's flapping all over the place. It's gonna, like, whip the crap out of him. He grabs it and he's like, yeah! And then a hubcap flying through, like Xena's chakram, comes, I think I just spit on the table, and nails him across the forehead.
He's got a big old slice.
Yeah, and Helen Hunt is, like, grabbing him. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like it's that bad, but he's in shock. He's like, oh my God, am I dying? Like, he doesn't know.
Yeah. Oh, to Helen Hunt's credit also, she was a little delayed in getting into the safety place.
Yeah.
I don't know how she knows that there was someone like hiding in a truck.
Oh,
And she goes up and she pulls him out. She's like, take my hand, get into safety.
Things eventually calm down. They're all coming out of the wreckage and the rubble.
It's bad.
Yeah. And they explain to Melissa, oh, no, the tornado didn't hit us.
We were lucky. Those were just downdrafts and microbursts.
Yeah, because Melissa was freaking the f*** out.
Which-
and they're like, that's not even the real deal, honey.
Yeah. They're just emphasizing how powerful this force of nature is.
Yeah.
And, later, and then they find out, oh, the tornado headed towards the town of Wakita, which is where Joe's aunt lived.
Melissa chooses to leave.
Oh, yeah.
She tells Bill, she's like, bro, I'm out.
Yeah.
She doesn't say why. She doesn't say that she overheard.
Yeah.
She just says, like, this isn't it, honey.
Yeah.
And he's like, not now, not here. And she goes, we both knew this would catch up to us.
Yeah.
Which, foreshadowing, tornado's going to catch up to him. And then but it does bring comfort when she says she's...
The funny thing is, I'm not that upset. What does that mean?
And you're like, okay, she's going to be okay.
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, don't worry about me. I know my way home.
They get to Mel's house. It's already like a quarter collapsed, and it's continuing. And Joe and Bill go straight into the house. Everything's at an angle now.
Yeah, and as they're walking through, things are still like crunching and shifting and falling.
Yeah. So they're able to get Mel out of there.
They find her in the basement with her dog.
Yes, the dog is alive.
Yes.
They get her out of there and through it, and they get her out of there, but the dog's still in the house, and Bill has to go back.
Like, not again!
Yeah.
For the love of God, people, get your dogs.
But they don't overblow it. He gets the dog out of the house. They get Mel right out of there, right as the house, like a house of cards, just collapses in on itself.
And you see it go, and go, and go.
Yeah.
I mean, she was minutes away from being crushed.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. And Mel's like, I think she's got a bump in the head because she's bleeding from her head. I think she's in a state of shock because she's like, oh, I'll drive myself to the hospital.
Honey, your car's in a tree around the corner.
You're not going. You're not driving.
Yeah. So before she goes to the hospital, she has one conversation with Joe. And Joe's like, I don't know how to stop this thing. And she's like,
Oh, I think you do. You've been chasing these things since you were a little kid.
even though they're not really stopping the tornado, they're just like, once again, they're trying to collect data to save people, to give people proper time to get out of the way. So I found that line, I like, you could say what she's really telling her is to stop all the madness that's going on inside Joe's head.
Yeah.
Madness is maybe a poor word to use here, but it's just to say, like, they're not really stopping the twister. They're like, apparently they're going to do that in the sequel coming up, but
Interesting.
I think, like, I'm like, oh no. But anyway, so.
All right, there's so much more to the movie.
I know, we're getting towards the end here. Final third act. So after she goes to the hospital, Joe's looking at all her lawn art, and someone has like this propeller kind of thing going on, and she's like, oh, I know how to make Dorothy fly.
Whoa.
So they grab up a bunch of Pepsi cans, sponsored by Pepsi, and they take the aluminum and cut up all these little propellers and stick them on the sensors. And they're like, okay, we got 2 Dorothy units left. We got to go. We got an F5 tornado. If this would be the perfect thing to get data on the bay. And this is also like Helen Hunt's like white whale kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's definitely got like a Moby Dick thing going on here. You know, except her land whale, I guess.
Cows.
Cows.
Cows are the land whale of the farm. Anyway.
In the sea of corn, cows. So they drop off the first Dorothy pack, but a flying tree knocks it over before it could get sucked up.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're down to one last Dorothy pack.
Mm.
And then all kinds of shit tries to stop them. There's a fuel 18-wheeler like truck that comes flying out of the sky, explodes in balls of fire, flames, and they drive through it because they got that Ford Tough truck.
They drive through a friggin' house.
Yeah.
The tornadoes have picked up an entire home.
Yeah.
And it lands in front of them on its side. And Bill's just like,
I think we're going in!
And they drive through the house, and as it's turning, they end up driving up the stairs.
Up the stairs.
And then through the other window.
Yeah, they go little Timmy's room into the bathroom and out the other side.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell? Because the house is rolling as they're going through it.
Yeah. So they go through that, and then they're trying to like follow the tornado because it's like still moving like in one direction, and they drive by like a farm vehicle rental place, and tractors and shit are falling in front of them, and it's like a video game.
Like, left, right, left, right.
Oh.
What now? I have no idea.
And then Jonas shows up with his crew.
The enemy.
Yeah, and Bill, using his Twister psychic powers, realizes the Twister is going to change direction. And they try to warn Jonas, and he, at this point, he's like, I don't need you. I'm like, I know what I'm doing.
And he turns off his radio.
Yeah.
And then we get some Final Destination shit. This is straight out of Final Destination.
Oh, totally.
I'll let you do the honors.
Yeah, his driver, who seems like a reasonable man. There's a couple points in the movie, he's like, oh, shouldn't we help the others? Or like, maybe we should listen to them. They kind of know what they're talking about. But he just does what he's told, and a metal support beam pylon thing comes flying through the window and
right through the windshield, right through him, and the whole damn thing gets sucked up into the tornado and then spat out, and it explodes.
Yeah.
In a fiery crash.
Yeah, and
like, damn.
So anyway, they finally realize, okay, we got one last door seat. We got to get this thing in. So they decide we're going to just drive the truck straight into the tornado because it seems to be steadily going in one direction. So we just line the truck up. So they line the truck up through this field of corn. They open the doors. They bail out. It goes flying in. The hatch opens. And boom, Dorothy's flying, baby.
They're beautiful lights. They're so pretty.
Yeah, they look like fireflies.
Yeah.
I like the little
actually,
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. And the crew's freaking out.
Dorothy's flying! Baby, she's flying, man!
Because they
we're
can see
getting data!
It's Christmas, baby!
We love data!
Yeah.
Data. Getting all the data. Learning about the tornadoes. Thank you.
So yeah, it goes up and they're like, we did it! We got it!
Woo!
But then I guess Bill's having too much fun seeing Dorothy fly that he's ignoring his psychic powers because the tornado changes direction and starts coming right at them.
Yep. So they book it.
They book it. They find this like farmhouse and barn. They go into the barn and it's filled.
They must have walked into Ed Gein's barn.
Yeah. It's filled with like scythes, like multiple wheat reaping scythes. So I get this.
Are you saying scythe?
Scythe. Sorry, the lisp, it messes me up sometimes. But it's Grim Reaper scythe. Like there's a bunch of them.
Everywhere.
Oh my God, who are these people?
Knives hanging from the ceiling everywhere, and they're just like, Bill's like, oh, hell no. They're like, whose farm are we on?
It would have been crazy if they get sucked up and we can see the F5 and we just see the blaze going around. Like, oh God, now it's an F5 plus.
Oh. They abandon the barn.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, and like the horses are running by them. Like they abandon the barn. They're like, no.
Yeah. They find this little hut that's got some kind of water thing going on. I don't know.
And then he said the pipes go at least 30 feet down.
Yeah. So they find some like leather straps or something. Not those kind of leather straps, but they find the kind you put like on a wheel. I'm forgetting the words, but anyway, they strap themselves to this pipe, hold on real tight. The little hut gets ripped apart by the tornado, and they are inside the tornado, which is probably one of the coolest shots in the movie.
Yeah, still tethered.
Yeah, still tethered to the pipe.
But you see their feet and leggies up in the air in the tornado.
We get a POV shot where you see the legs. It's great. It's awesome, and it's like we get to see, and like Helen Hunt finally gets to interact with the tornado, which I guess heals her trauma or something. But anyway, eventually the tornado dissipates. We see the family from the farmhouse. They come out of their storm shelter. They're fine.
And it's it's parents with their kids.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, we've come full circle. This family survived this one. Their house wasn't wrecked. I mean, they're probably missing a couple of beams or whatever.
But that means all the creepy shit belongs to them.
Yes.
In the barn.
And, well, the tornado got rid of the evidence now, so they're going to be
That's true.
fine.
Yes,
They're going to be
they're
fine.
How to Get Away with Murder.
Was Ed Gein a family man?
I mean, one family man, but so yeah, they had the moment where like it's nice. The clouds have opened. There's sunshine.
It's gorgeous.
The team's caught up with them. They're all like, "We got the data. We got it. It's great." And they're like, "Oh," and the one guy's like, "Look at that beautiful sky." And Helen Hunt's like, "Nope, I'm gonna stick my tongue down Bill's throat." And they just make out.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful moment. They're back together, and it's
and
great.
I think what's his name? Danny? Channy?
Dusty?
Dusty? Yeah. He does a little cheer
Yeah.
when he sees them sucking face. It's very cute. It's very cute.
Yeah. Yeah. So the camera pulls away, the music plays, and that is Twister.
I really like that movie.
I'm
First time
glad.
watching it.
Yeah, no, I watched it. Yeah, it's a good movie. I looked online. The scores aren't that high, which I can see there's maybe a few like over the top moments of it because it's a disaster film.
Yeah.
But I think this movie probably led to a lot of people's interest in tornadoes because I remember wasn't it like 10 years ago on like Discovery Channel there was like storm chaser reality shows.
Yep.
And we see these real life storm chasers who have restructured their vehicles to be aerodynamic so they don't get sucked up and stuff. So yeah, I would assume that this makes if it makes the general populace more aware of certain sciences, then cool.
Sure.
I think that's a good thing. Even though obviously like there's some stuff they stretched.
A little bit. See. See, now here's what I expected to happen was when Melissa hears over the radio, Dusty's there and it's very awkward. I'm like, this is really going to be Melissa and Dusty's love story. That's what's going to happen.
You people are all crazy. You know that.
Oh, shout out to Roach from The People Under the Stairs. I'm pretty sure his name was Roach. Have you seen The People Under the Stairs?
I have not. I've heard of it.
That's because I've told you about it.
Okay.
So shout out to Roach because I've only ever seen him in these two movies.
Okay, cool. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, I still like it. Do I think it's like the greatest disaster film of all time? No, but I still think it's plenty enjoyable. A nice little balance of like excitement, adventure, a little bit of like action, drama, good little laughs sprinkled here throughout there.
The suck zone.
But anyway, Twister, well, I'm glad you enjoyed this film. Yes. I always love sharing movies with you. But yeah, so Twister.
Let us know what you think of the movie.
Yeah, down in the comments and follow us on social media. We are on Threads and Instagram and TikTok.
All right.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, see you next time.
See ya.
Ow.